बताओ यार, मतलब बात करने का बिल्कुल मन नहीं है, ऐसे शोक मनाने का मन है. A day that, I mean, a result that not a lot of us saw coming, to be honest. Not a day, of course. We saw the day coming, but not the result. And especially the way we lost, not the margin, not anything. We were just completely listless. We were demoralized. I mean, this is as demoralizing as it gets in terms of a loss. Because एक होता है हारना, something we all were discussing off air as well. But जब इतनी बुरी तरीके से हारते हो, तो it definitely hurts you badly. And it goes beyond just the result, the match. We've got Neha and Soumi, and of course, for the uninitiated, we are, of course, talking about the India-New Zealand fixture that just ended 10 minutes ago. We were just waiting for the last rites to be done, and thankfully that was done soon enough. Neha, like, where do we even start from here? Like, matlab, for a game that we were really excited about, for a result that seemed like a foregone conclusion, क्या हो गया यार वहाँ पे?
Yeah, I mean, as an India fan right now, I think it's very difficult to objectively see the match and be like, we still have some positives and silver linings to take away because it was just a very disappointing effort. I think, just trying to rationalize it, I was thinking of, probably the burden of expectations and all the pressure that, the girls were feeling right from the start. I mean, just looking at the match as well, the way New Zealand started was just fantastic, right? I think we will talk, through the course of our discussion about the match as well. But just looking at the margin by which we have lost, which is 58 runs, it's going to have a massive hit on the net run rate. I know it's too early for us to, be bringing out the calculators and making all of these assumptions. But that's how, relentless, right, your group stage format is. So in that sense, a very concerning loss, I'd say. India will have to reevaluate and reassess a lot of areas, more questions than answers, being posed after this match. So yeah, just a lot of questions at this point.
Yeah, and to be honest, show me again, like all of us, even during the preview, thought, ki boss, there's just one question that the Indian team needs to find answers for, and that's the number 3 slot in kisko khilana hai, kisko nahi khilana hai. But the 11 they came up with, there seemed too many names that we did not see coming, and on top of that, the way they use, certain players, be it batters or bowlers, मतलब all in all just very chaotic and something, मतलब क्या बोले यार, like how do you sort of put words to what we want to say, because right now again we all are at loss for words in terms of what we saw there.
I think number one, एक तो I'm trying to are you guys losing my voice? Yeah. So first of all, मैं तो ये सोच रही हूँ कि चलो ये एक शगुन का हार है, पहले हो गया तो अच्छी बात है, अब आगे everything will be okay. But as
open like
very
a true
surprised,
RCB
very
fan,
shocked
so go down
about
with
everything that happened. Yeah, so I think very shocked about everything that happened, and especially because I was hoping that New Zealand will be one team that we can really target beating and getting those 2 points early on in the tournament, because of course with the kind of the records that they were coming into this tournament, especially with the series of losses, we were hoping that they will be pretty much low in confidence. But the good part, at least as a cricket fan, though they were oppositions, we didn't see really that the shadow of 5 consecutive losses, that whitewash, it didn't show up right from the word go. So I think that's commendable for a team to come back from a big loss like that and play so brilliantly. But yes, the Indian cricket fan in me has been absolutely, got a little bit of a hammering and hoping we recover from here.
Yeah, and to be honest, again, in terms of the side, there were clearly a lot of expectations. So sure, all of us are hurt because we expected from the side, because we knew, we believed, ki boss, this is finally a tournament where we have a side that can do wonders for us. And this is why it's sort of even more hurting. But to just sort of take this question as well, Neha, Janvi sort of says, it's such a short tournament that it's not too soon to talk about net run rate unless we beat Australia. And that's a big if. It's not easy. Hum Australians को हराने की बात करें, when we failed to beat the trans-Tasmanian rivals New Zealand, who are coming here from a 10-match losing streak, who seemed in all sorts of trouble at the end of that Australia and New Zealand series. Those who saw would have vouched for the fact that, boss, यार ये न्यूजीलैंड साइड तो वर्ल्ड कप खेलने क्यों आ रही है, इनको मतलब इनको बोल दो कि आए यहाँ पे वापस चले जाए, because कुछ चल ही नहीं रहा था. Nothing seemed to be working for them, and it almost seemed like they came up with a way to make everything work, beat right up top from the power play, the way they sort of started aggressively. What do you think changed for New Zealand itself, yaar?
I think New Zealand was just coming in with a clean slate. As we already know, this is Sophie Devine's last T20 World Cup as captain. So I think she decided to just let go, play her natural game, stick to the basics, and that's pretty much what she did today with her knock as well, right? I mean, she took time to get going, but once she got into that groove, there was absolutely no stopping her. And New Zealand is too good a side to just write off. I think we discussed this during our previews as well. At least I was of the opinion that New Zealand is not one side you would take lightly. They have been past finalists as well, and I know lately their form hasn't been that great. They're coming from series of losses, but I think that still doesn't take away from the skill set and the mindset of the players as well, right? So I did have a lot of expectations. Ki, हाँ, मतलब New Zealand टक्कर देगा, but winning today was obviously a shocker, but credit to the White Ferns. I mean, to come from that sort of a mind space to actually end up defeating India, who everyone said, are favorites, not even to win this match, to win the World Cup itself. To do that, I think massive credits to the White Ferns, and I think they'll be very happy with this win. Gives them a lot of confidence and impetus, right, for the rest of the campaign as well. We've been discussing this is Group A, Group of Death. You have like some of the toughest possible teams present in this group, but I think a win like this just does you a world of good, right? So I think it was definitely the mindset, and they just came in with a clean slate that kind of ensured that the match tilted in their favor.
I mean, clearly now everyone will be backing the White Ferns to win every game they play now, including beating Australia, because that is sort of the only way India can also ensure they can qualify even after losing to Australia. अगर Australia, India और New Zealand के सामने हारते, then technically assuming India wins all their other games, once again, the RCB fans and all of us coming out, सारे calculators, सारे calculations बाहर आ चुके हैं. But for the uninitiated, let's start with the scorecard. Of course, let's start with the match summary. कि क्या हुआ? So New Zealand won the toss, opted to bat first, a call that all of us were surprised with, because even yesterday we spoke about how Dubai May due factor will be something that every team will have to contend with. So in all likelihood, the team that wins the toss will opt to bowl first so that they don't have to, worry about the slippery ball and all of that. But turns out New Zealand had other ideas, and their ideas clearly did the trick. They opted to bat first. Sophie Devine, the captain, led from the front. But before that, we saw opener Georgia Plummer play a knock and a half, because for someone who again averages 11.3 in her T20 career to now come out of nowhere and go berserk against the Indian bowlers in the power play was something no one saw coming. Everyone had probably planned for Susie Bates, but once again, the dependable Susie Bates coming up with the start, taking care of the first half of the innings, so to say, before Sophie Devine took over. With the ball in hand for India, Renuka Singh was the pick of the bowlers. Asha Shobna not to be left far behind, and Arundhati also chipping in with one wicket. India in reply never really got going. We saw Shefali Verma get out in the second over, soft dismissal that to Eden Carson. And then later, no one really got going, to be honest. I know it says Harmanpreet Kaur, Jenny and Deepti, but yaar, matlab, tum log kisi ka bhi naam dal do, farak nahi padta, because we saw 15, 13, 13. Richa also got an 18 ball 12. Smriti also got to 11 runs. I don't think we can even call them starts. I wish they all at least got a start that they didn't capitalize on, but I don't think वो उतने आगे भी गए. And that's where sort of you want to wonder कि हुआ क्या है? Like, was it a very complacent attitude that led to this? Ki boss, matlab, we are a very strong side, and this Kiwi side is not doing well. Could complacency be a reason for this, or was it something else? A lot of people, even in the comments right now in the live chat, are talking about, boss, the last time they played was on the 20th of July, and that was a good 2.5 months ago. Uske baad se unhone khela hi nahi hai. I mean, again, if you have to, at the risk of not using excuses or using excuses, what do you think, were a couple of reasons behind this loss?
Just to be a little bit more positive about this, I think the first innings when New Zealand was batting, I think the way the match was going, there was a lot of balance that was happening actually. India was completely out of the real good equation during the power play, but then they did make a comeback, a very good comeback. And of course, then Sophie Devine took over, and things, again, New Zealand became much more stronger. But there was a point of time where there were a lot of positives that we were getting out of this match. Now, it's unfortunate that right after when India came out to bat, right after that first over, nothing really clicked. I think things just went downhill right from the second over, because things were just not working, and we were not able to pick up. Smriti and Shefali both were struggling, and then once Shefali was gone and Smriti were gone, it all kind of went topsy turvy, and we couldn't really pick up from there. So yeah, I will still take a lot of huge positives from at least the middle overs of bowling, because that's where we made a comeback. Huge ups to Asha for that over, that single run wicket over. Also, Arundhati bowled a good spell there. So I think good positives when it comes to the bowling, but with the bat, things just didn't. Got picked up right from the word go.
Fair enough. I mean, there's so many questions that we all want to try and look answers for, but let's try and pick a few questions and try and see if we have some answers, we have some thoughts on it. Neha, let's start with the bowling effort itself. The way, some of our bowlers were used. Pooja Vasrakar bowled just the one over. Shriyanka Patil did not bowl out. Renuka Thakur bowled the 19th over. Deepti Sharma, despite having an off day, was given the 18th over ahead of Shriyanka Patil, which in turn led to her not bowling out. All in all, those bowling changes, kya laga? What did you make of it? What did you make of the 11 itself? If you want to start from there, like, a lot of names that we not see coming sort of, were a part of the 11 today.
Actually, yes, let's start talking about the playing 11 itself, because before the match, we did know that Harmanpreet was going to slot in at that number 3 position, but still, the rest of the composition of that playing 11 was pretty unknown. Quite surprised that they did want to go in with Arundhati Reddy, because I thought they would want to, just go with that extra spinner. But chalo, theek hai, maybe the mindset was to have an extra pacer and, just kind of deepen the batting as well. So in that sense, I don't know. Radha Yadav missing out did feel like a little like questionable, but I was like, chalo, let's see, how the match progresses as well. Now again, just outlining that bowling effort, I think the biggest concern for me was Deepti Sharma. I think she just looked off today. Usually she's your clutch player, someone who can get you wickets, is very economical. But man, she just looked so out of rhythm. I think she went for like a good 40 odd runs in her 4 overs. She bowled out. So in that sense, I was hoping, if she could get you some wickets, things could have been really different for India. Even I think when you just look at the power play, right, when New Zealand was running away with the game quite literally, India just seemed out of ideas and plans. I think even when there was a review, like the entire team huddled and they were just trying to come up with plans and everything. It looked like they were really feeling concerned. And somewhere I think that part where Amelia Kerr was run out and then they declared it a dead ball, which I think we will again touch upon. I think there was a shift in momentum there, because eventually we did get Amelia Kerr's wicket. But then you could see how the players were very distracted. Like Harmanpreet Kaur, was having such heavy discussions with the umpire, went to the boundary line, the coach was there. Like a lot of things were happening. Then we had the slow over penalty. Like just a lot of things went absolutely south, which they did not see coming. And I think all of these factors, like, collectively contributed to India just not being able to, restrict New Zealand to one, like, to a total less than like 120 or so, which has been the trend in this World Cup right now. New Zealand ends up making 160, which is one of the highest totals. And somewhere, I think, a combination of all of these things and, just the body language in general, a few dropped catches here and there, could, be attributed to India just not being able to restrict New Zealand.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's telling that in a day where
Yeah,
we
I would
saw
just
an
like to
incident like
add.
that happen. Yeah, just to sort of close that out, there was
Yeah.
that entire run out between the way Mealy Kerr was dismissed and the ball being called dead. That conversation is already long gone. मतलब किसी को बात नहीं करना उस पे, because that's how shambolic the performance was. On any other day, that conversation or that bit would have been the entire talking point of the game. Like I'm pretty sure अगर ये किसी तीसरे मैच में होता ना, हम लोग अभी उसी के बारे में अच्छे खासे 10-15 मिनट स्पेंड करके फिर आगे बढ़ते. The fact that we're not even trying to touch that is because there's no point. But sorry, Soumya, you were saying something.
No, I was just talking about, Deepti Sharma being like hit. So I think Deepti Sharma is definitely one of the clutch bowlers. She's our go-to bowler. And Kiwis came up with a strong plan against her. They actually made a point to attack her right in the beginning. So I think there was a lot of planning that had gone for Deepti Sharma. Of course, there will be. But yeah, the way she was taken out of the game, I think that showed that also shows what a player she has turned into. And one of the reasons why Indian bowling took a little bit of a backseat during the first half.
Yeah, that's fair, to be honest. Once you've taken care of the main I wouldn't say chink, but the main person in the opposition's bowling attack, then you've done the job. I mean, you've done half the job, if not most of the job, because usi ke baad, in terms of the way the rest of the side is looking at, because they tend to depend on Deepti to get the wickets to stem the flow of runs, importantly. Agar wo nahi hota, so naturally there would be a spillover effect in others as well. Ki boss chal kya raha hai yahan pe, hum kaise defend karenge and all of that. So yeah, lots more to talk about. But before that, just a few comments. Akash, of course, talking about Maddie Green and her cameo with Drew catches, of course, and of course, subtle plug-in from him. But please, guys, make sure he's done an interview with Maddie Green. Do check that out on cricket.com. It's a fantastic interview talking about her career, what her expectations are, and what she's looking forward to in the World Cup as well. So you've got to check that out. He also goes on to add, on a serious note, though, India can most definitely beat Australia. They're no longer as invincible like people assume. For sure. I mean, they can. Will they? That's the question. Again, like always, can they की बात ही नहीं करे ना हम लोग. उस हिसाब से तो कायदे से हमें हराना चाहिए था, but unfortunately wasn't to be the case. Meanwhile, Akshay going out to say, Deepti Sharma should be dropped for the next game. She's not clicking at all. Herdman and the team management should go with Sachna Sajeevan in place of Deepti. You might disagree with me, but try out. यार मतलब एक महीने पहले उसने लंदन स्पिरिट को 100 जिता के मतलब थोड़ा तो क्रेडिट बनता है यार. Like I understand she had an awful game both with the bat and the ball, but you cannot count out the not potential, the experience, the talent, and what she brings into the side. If anything, the question that I would want to bring up is Harmanpreet Kaur herself. She's not been in the greatest of form this year across T20s, across WPL. I'm not saying usko drop kar do. I'm saying ki given how she's been playing this year, they decided to promote her at number 3. ऐसा भी नहीं कि number 5 पे अच्छा कर रही है तो I mean number 4 पे अच्छा कर रही है तो promote कर लेते हैं. Given that she's already been struggling, they still decided to go ahead with the choice ki boss, let's not bring in another batter. We'll instead promote Harmanpreet Kaur. We'll also promote as a consequence Jemmy to number 4, Richa to number 5, which meant that 3 batters were batting out of position just to plug that one number 3 gap. Neha, matlab, again, what did you make of that itself?
Yeah, I think this number 3 discussion is something that is, clogged. I'd literally use the word clogged across all social media platforms, all discussion forums, and probably even our show. And I think even yesterday I was talking about how, just the promotion of Harmanpreet Kaur to number 3 in a World Cup is such a big risk. I mean, experimenting right now was not the ideal move, but, India anyways went ahead and did it. I mean, just look at her performances in the warm-up games too. If that did not give an indication of it not being the most ideal move, I'm not sure what could have been more telling. But then, I don't know, man. We just lost those 2 wickets in the power play of our openers. That really set back India. Fine, Harmanpreet was taking her time to, just get into the groove and kind of build on innings. But again, I think the way she was just dismissed kind of just was very disappointing. I think credit to Rosemary Mayer. She was really good. And kind of deceiving her with that LBW as well. And I think the moment we lost these crucial wickets, it just puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the batters coming in as well, who are kind of also batting out of position. I know a lot of people will counter me by saying, hey, it's T20s, it's a very flexible format, you should be ready to bat at any position. But again, this is a high-stakes World Cup match that we're looking at. You're chasing a total of like 160, and it does, come with its pressure as well. So I don't know what will be the strategy going ahead next match. I think at least for the whole World Cup, we will see Harmanpreet, kind of be in that number 3 position and everyone batting one position up. Maybe the only change we'll see is, if Adinati Reddy is out and we'd see Radha Yadav come in, or, that extra spinner quotient coming in. But I don't know what can be done to, kind of solve this number 3 problem, at least for the short term thing. Harmanpreet does seem like, the person they will go to, but long term, we will definitely have to evaluate and look into other options.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of long term, of course, guys, please make sure हम भी यहाँ long term के लिए तो please like दबाओ, subscribe दबाओ, पूरे tournament को comprehensively cover करेंगे. उसके बाद भी करेंगे यार, India starring Australia, the women's side and the men's side. So a lot of games to cover, a lot of games to talk about. So please make sure that you've hit the like button if you haven't already and subscribe भी करो यार. मतलब it'll do a world of good to us. I'll do nothing to you. If anything, it'll help you know कि हम कब live जा रहे हैं, and हम कब नहीं जा रहे हैं and stuff like that. So please make sure you've done that. Also sticking to New Zealand's bowling efforts as well. Rosemary Mayer, the way she bowled, especially with the new ball or the so-called new ball, because 6th over made the way she was getting movement, that prodigious movement is something we weren't even able to generate in the first couple of overs. And not just us. In general, we've not seen that kind of movement in UAE so far. Sure, you can talk about thoda bahut breeze tha aaj in Dubai and stuff like that. But even then, sixth over me, the way she was getting the ball to hoop around, and I want to say Herman was a tad bit unlucky because that was the kind of LBW shout that bowlers go for, but umpires usually tend to stay away from because it was clearly drifting down leg. But just one of those days where nothing goes in your favor. In fact, Richa Ghosh, the very next ball also got another hooping in swinger. Thankfully, she somehow managed to negotiate it. But yeah, kudos to her. The way she's been bowling, looked in great rhythm, and that seam presentation, again, something to talk about. She's got a great release, which is why she was able to get that movement off the air. So it'll be interesting to see. New Zealand would be very happy with that performance from her. And then add the likes of Mealy, because she's been in red hot form, like Jeet mentioned yesterday. She was getting her googries right, she was bowling bang on in the warm-up games, and you could see that today as well in terms of how she bowled. There's Eden Carson, then Leah, who also was getting the ball to move. It was just the perfect storm where New Zealand got everything right and India got everything wrong. Murphy's Law decided to show up today at the worst possible time for India, and unfortunately, we can't do anything about it. But one more thing to talk about, the top performer of the day, and we cannot look past, of course, the New Zealand skipper. And where is the graphic? Here's the graphic. Sophie Devine. Show me that knock from Sophie Devine, who herself hasn't been in the greatest of form. That must, really instill a lot of confidence in the side.
I think yes, absolutely. Captain leading from the front, and what better than have Sophie Devine get those runs for the team? Also, the kind of the kind of muscle power she still shows at this age, if I may say so. I think that's incredible. Overall, with the bat, with the kind of her presence in the field, the way she was actually being aggressive with the fielding. I think over and above, a great presence of Sophie Devine over there out there. And if at all this is her last World Cup, then she will definitely want to go away with a lot of positivity, with a lot of probably the making a lot of impact. So yeah, I think that's what everybody is looking forward to. I mean, as fans overall, we are also looking forward to see a lot of Sophie Devine out there.
Yeah, and Neha, again, it was a bit of a bittersweet feeling, right? Because IPL, WPL में she wasn't able to perform. We were all waiting कि यार एक match से जिता के छोड़ दो, please एक match. She just couldn't perform, for the love of God. She just couldn't buy a run. And cut to the World Cup here, game number 1. It seems like she's been in all sorts of trouble. In fact, numbers also suggest that this has been one of her worst years in terms of strike rates, especially. She's not been striking the ball just as well. Batting also at number 4. That knock must really, push her to the brim ki boss, abhi to apne ko jitana hai New Zealand ko, unka pehla World Cup.
Yeah, definitely. I think she's been a part of the White Fern setup for like the 9th consecutive T20 World Cup. It speaks volumes, right, about her longevity and the way she has contributed so much to the New Zealand ecosystem as well. And even just looking at her lean patch, I would call it lean patch and not like bad reign of form. It was concerning, right? And a lot of people thought, Array World Cup, she may not be able to deliver. But I think that's what really sets apart legends, right? She was able to, kind of make the most of all of those loose deliveries, come into form and step up and contribute when the team kind of most needed her to, deliver. And in that sense, I think it was a memorable knock, something that I think also, was the defining factor between both the teams. So I think this knock will do her a world of good, give her a lot of confidence going ahead as well. And New Zealand would want her to, come up with more performances like this, because the following matches are not like, easy ones, or the other teams in the group are also not pushovers, right? So in that sense, I think Sophie Devine will take a lot of confidence from this. And even in general, the way she was fielding, right? Even on the comms, they're like, oh, for someone her age, she's just 35. She definitely has a lot of cricket left in her. But I think she was being very athletic, right, in her fielding as well. And I think this is that one situation as RCB fans, we're like, hey, we want the player to play well, but like not against our team, and actually, like lead the way for a win as well. But yeah, I think as that RCB fan, still happy for her with that performance, and excited to see where she goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, we know when New Zealand go from here, they are going to Sharjah and they play Australia on the 8th of October, which is their next fixture. That's also equally important for them, because we all were talking about Australia and India are favorites to qualify from this group. They've already come over India. Now it's all about taking care of their trans-Tasmanian rivals. It'll be interesting to see if that game proves to be at least some sort of a close encounter, if not a one-sided one, because that's all we're here for. Even if it is at the cost of us seeing our beloved team lose. कम से कम पास हुआ ताकि हमें लगे कि यार चलो कोई नहीं, हम लोग एफर्ट तो पूरा मारे. And again, this is one of those days where you're very angry, very, very, very pissed off as fans, but you also want to sympathize. You want to understand कि यार मतलब you want to feel bad कि this is one of those days. You want to brush past it and move on, and let's hope they are able to do that on Sunday, of course, the 6th of October, which is when they take on Pakistan. India versus Pakistan World Cup encounters. We know how emotionally charged up both sides get, both players and fans, that is. So let's see how that pans out, and that's coming live from Dubai once again, and that'll be a 3:30 p.m. encounter. India's only afternoon game in this round of the World Cup. So let's see wahan pe kya hota hai. Now, of course, it is time for us to talk about the second game as well, or technically the first game of the day. ये तो रही बात दूसरी game की. We also saw another game happen, another fascinating game in the sense there were two, equally competent sides taking on. It was South Africa versus West Indies, and that game came live from Dubai. It was the first ever women's T20I to be hosted in the Dubai International Cricket Stadium. So we all were excited to see कि boss hota kya yahan pe, chakkar kya hai. And it was great fun to watch. Unfortunately, what wasn't great fun was the way West Indies bowled, but we will talk about it well deeper into it. Let's have the match summary out first for the uninitiated. West Indies lost the toss and were asked to bat first. Once again, very surprising because in both cases, we sort of felt, that the toss-winning side would want to opt to bat first. With the evening game, it was the case of due. And with the afternoon game, it was simply because, boss, इतना धूप है, इतनी गर्मी होने वाली है at 40 degrees, 42 degrees, you wouldn't want to feel that. You wouldn't want each of your 11 players to feel sapped out of energy. But clearly, South Africa once again had different plans, just like New Zealand, and they showed us why they are here to beat and not simply mere pushovers, and not simply be mere pushovers, sorry. And West Indies were put into bat first. Heaney Matthews was dismissed very early by Marizan Kaap, and uske baad to matlab पारी कभी आगे बढ़ी नहीं. Deandra Doughton did briefly show some glimpses of her old world boss self, but it did not really go any further. Stephanie Taylor was the best batter by a stretch. In fact, she was the only one to even hit a six. It seemed like they would be able to go past 120. Wasn't to be the case. Nonkululeko Mlaba was the pick of the bowlers for South Africa with a solid 4 including a 2-2 in one of her overs, which included, who was the one? Yeah, it was Chanel Henry, if I'm not wrong, who got out for the first bowler there. But again, Neha, let's start with how that first innings panned out. That bowling effort from South Africa, Ayabonga Kaka with the new ball was actually worth $1 million there.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the West Indies versus South Africa match, a lot of expectations coming in this match, right? Because these are like the top teams of Group B, going at it with each other. We're thinking that, England is going to be that team to qualify, and who else is going to be? It's going to be West Indies or South Africa. And this match did kind of give us a glimpse of that. A lot of expectations were, riding on the West Indies, see how they'd probably go. But again, just talking about the toss there as well, South Africa won the toss and decided to bowl first, which I thought was very interesting because we've been talking and obsessing, I think, over the heat factor and how that is going to have such a big, massive role to play. Yet, the way they just kind of, restricted West Indies to just 118. I think Marizan Cup, start of the proceedings was brilliant. Got you those. Got you those dot balls, got you a wicket early on as well of Hayley Matthews, who is known to be that X factor and someone who can actually take the game away from the opposition, right? And I think the rest of the bowlers just coming to the party, like you had Laba, getting you those 4 wickets. And I think South Africa will be just very happy with how collectively that bowling effort just panned out to restrict the opposition to 118. And even the run chase, right? At one point, it just felt like South Africa had it like very much in control, and they just chased it down without any fuss, and that was really nice to see. And apparently, this is South Africa's first win against West Indies in a T20 World Cup, and their second 10-wicket win as well. Which I think is amazing and a great start, I'd say, to their campaign.
Yeah, for sure. And show me again if you could hear us, like in terms of how that first innings panned out itself. Yeah, like the way the West Indies batters batted. Is my audio leaking or is it all right? Okay, no worries. So yeah, in terms of how that first innings panned out, First, of course, South African bowlers were really bowling very well. Marizan Kaur with the new ball took care of Hayley Matthews, and then there was Ayabonga Kaka, who really had Kiana Jones in all sorts of trouble. मतलब लगा ही नहीं कि Kiana bat कर पाएगी वहां पे, and it just seemed, कि Kiana just wanted to let go of it because 6 out swingers, not once was she able to get bat on ball. So that's something she would want to worry. And I'm trying to think, did I say Jones or did I say Joseph?
I think you said Joseph itself. Kiana Joseph,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. So, and that was so surprising to see. First of all, we weren't sure why was she promoted up the order. I know warm-up matches big khilaya tha, but she usually comes at number 7, number 8. She's been, similar to Zaida James, one of the pinch hitters who can sort of score a few boundaries if needed. Clearly does not have the technique to contend with the new ball, and ऊपर से footwork नहीं है, कुछ नहीं. I felt bad because she seemed all at sea against Ayabonga Kaka, who just kept bowling it past the outside edge. And then finally she created that opportunity, but unfortunately Chloe Brown was not able to hold on to it. Let's just hope Showme's internet seems much better right now. Shomi, you can hear us?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Perfect. So again, in that first innings, the way the West Indian batters batted, what did you make of that whole innings?
I think for me, when Dottin was batting really well, and as you know, we were also discussing offline that maybe she would have, if she could have really continued it that way, and if she could have just seen through a little bit and just seen through a little bit of Marizan Cap, maybe it would have been a very different story. And it also seemed like that West Indies was depending a lot on her coming back, and there was a morale that kind of got defeated once she got out, and things just went absolutely like, there was the kind of a collapse that happened. However, they still reached 100 plus at a point of time, though it was looking a little difficult, but yeah, that happened. uh, in contrary, South Africa just cruised through. They seemed just the opposite. I mean, they were absolutely calm. It didn't look like that they had to take a leaf out of anywhere, and they just cruised through the entire innings very, very seamlessly. So yeah, stark
Yeah,
difference in between the two sides approaching the game.
definitely. And, just coming to the second innings now, Neha, the way West Indies bowled, and importantly, the way Hayley Matthews shuffled her bowlers, just too many questionable changes. Afi Fletcher bowled just the one over in the first, then Shamelia Connell got her first over in the ninth. Deandra Doughton did not bowl, which is fair. Hayley Matthews herself came in, introduced herself in the third or the fourth over. Like, all in all, just not the greatest of days for Hayley Matthews, the captain. Like, आफी फ्लेचर को तुम कैसे नीड देते यार, like बॉल कैसे नहीं दे सकते? Outside Haley, she's probably the only other attacking wicket taking option in this side. Given that, and given also how Tasman Bridge tends to get into a knot against spin, it made a lot more sense. Yeah, exactly. So what did you make of that bowling effort? But let's start with Hayley Matthews' captaincy first there.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of decisions in that, West Indies bowling effort that absolutely did not make sense. Probably, they were just not feeling that confident with that total of 118. You could see how, the surface was kind of easing up. It was getting easier to bat as well. And I think somewhere that kind of played into their minds and, led to that not so great bowling performance. Hayley Matthews, again, a very young captain, have to give that to her. But I think the way she just kind of rotated her bowlers was seeming very bizarre and confusing in that sense. And it kind of just reflected in how South Africa had like a very good power play, right? They didn't lose any wickets. They were just steadily heading towards the target. They didn't have to do anything extraordinary, just, kind of stick to the basics and get the job done. And I think Tasman Brits has been often criticized for, trying to just go into that shell, unable to express herself. I think if Jeet was here, he would have an entire segment, just discussing that. But I think
Neha's
the way
way of saying, come on, G, talk now.
yes, and I think the way she just complimented Laura Wolfart was quite remarkable because the target was really not that much. If you just stick it out there, you can actually chase it down without losing any wickets. And this does, again, a world of good for South Africa and their net run rate as well because they are in Group B. They still, would fancy their chances, going ahead. They've been finalists in the last edition. So, probably going all the way is something that is also probably running in the back of their mind. So So it was a very clinical run chase executed to perfection in that 17.5 overs. So I think, yeah, South Africa will be very happy with that, batting effort, and West Indies will probably have to, go back to the drawing board, figure out what just happened with that bowling combination, the field placements, and stuff just didn't work out for them.
Yeah, for sure. And Laura Wolford, of course, even during the team previews, we've spoken about how she's cut a corner in terms of how she started. Her strike rate in the power play in 2023 was in the early 90s. It was at about 93, 94, or it was in the late 90s. It was 98. And cut to 2024, that shot up to 142, clearly showing that, they realize कि boss power play में runs बनाने ज़रूरी है, and importantly, runs quickly बनाने ज़रूरी है. And that's why she's, despite being the technically sound batsman who should be there throughout the innings, she decided, what? That doesn't matter. What matters is that the team gets to a quick start, and that's what she's been able to do. Like you mentioned, yeah, like it wasn't just the fact that they, were able to end the power play undefeated and unbeaten, importantly, but it was also the fact that they were able to score runs briskly. In fact, they scored about 42, 43 runs at the end of the power play, which was more than enough. Par for score given, they were just chasing 180, 190. And importantly, once again, I realize that I've been saying importantly way too much. But yeah, they play the next game against England, and that's on Monday in Sharjah. Now, England is the side that they want to beat to ensure कि boss अभी जो भी हो हम लोग तो अभी semi-final पहुंचेंगे. And should they beat England, like I mentioned, it would mean that only one of England or Australia would be making it through to the finals, which means we could potentially see a first-time winner, which is why I just want at least one of any of the remaining four sides in Group E to be able to take care of England, so that मतलब इतना हम लोग 60, 70, 80 चेस खेल रहे, इतना आगे का सोच रहे, बताओ यार, मतलब क्या ही बोले अभी. But yeah, so once again, point being, that will also be a very important game for them. So that's that in terms of what we wanted to talk about from the second game, or rather the first game of the day as well. Now it's time for us to look ahead. Oh wait, I just realized यार एक class piece of formality तो रह गया था. Top performer from the first game, हमने लॉरा वुल्फार्ड की बात की, हमने ताजमिन रिट्ज की भी बात की. दोनों ने बहुत ही शानदार तरीके से 50s बनाए. But of course, the top performer of the day had to go to the bowler there. It was now, once again, wrong graphic. It was Nonkululeko Mlaba. There you go, 4 for 29 in her 4-over spell, an economy of 7.25, which included 12 dot balls. And once again, it's those dot balls that actually hurt West Indies even more than anything. She first, of course, accounted for Kiana Joseph, and then she took care of the keeper, Shemaine Campbell, before, of course, finishing off Chanel Henry and Alia Alain. Neha, again, in terms of the way she's bowled, because we spoke about South Africa's spin attack not being amongst the wickets. In fact, they're one of the poorer spin attacks across the 10 participating teams. And cut to now, Mlaba taking care of her side single-handedly with that foofer. Once again, they'll be chuffed with her performance.
Definitely, and I think it's the manner in which she got those wickets as well, right? Came in, did her job, got those wickets, was quite economical in that sense as well. And because I think South Africa does not have probably the strongest spin attack, a lot of their prospects, kind of lie on Laba to, step up and deliver. We did see Chloe Tryon also, rolling her arm. We had Sunil as well, trying her off spin. But I think Laba just, set the bar really high, got you those crucial wickets, and I think that just pretty much did the job for South Africa and trying to restrict the West Indies as well. Even just looking at her wickets, like she got Chanel Henry for a golden duck, then Alia Alain as well, who has the capability of getting you those boundaries. Two very key wickets at that point in time, and even Kiana Joseph. I think that first wicket she got. I mean, we spoke about Kiana Joseph a lot about how she's just not able to get in the groove. She was really struggling, and I think that first breakthrough, kind of just spilled over and ensured, that she had that dominance through the spell. And eventually, she got even Shemaine Campbell's wicket. So that was great to see. And I think because South Africa's, spin attack looks a little weak right now, I think a performance like this gives them some confidence. Ki, hey, we are a side that can't be ignored. And will be again, interesting to see how she fares, the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and
Again,
I
like
also
we
think
mentioned
that
earlier, against England in Sharjah. Yes, Soumi, sorry.
yeah, and I also think the junctures in which the wickets were taken, the 2 wicket over, I think that was very important, because that was the point of time when again West Indies was trying to resurrect, and they were probably trying to build up an innings. Had that been the case, it would have been a very different story if that could have been possible. But I think she came in at the right moment and picked up the wickets at a very crucial time. which led to the downfall. So that's where it was very, very impressive to see her.
Yeah, she practically broke the back of West Indies there because it was a crucial 30-run partnership that helped West Indies resurrect from a shambolic power play. 32 for 3, if I'm not wrong, is what they were at. Ben, Shameen, Campbell walked in. And then Stefani and Shameen were slowly taking it forward. And just when it seemed like, yeah, they will start attacking the spinners, that's when Mlaba came and took Campbell and then accounted for Chanel Henry in the very next ball. So clearly, played a very big role in helping South Africa restrict West Indies to a very under par 180. So that was that round. Game number 3 and game number 3 of the World Cup and game number 1 of day 2 of the World Cup. Thankfully, I got my numbers right there, hopefully. But now it is time for us to look ahead and talk about the 2 games that are coming up tomorrow. I'm trying to think what would Danny Morrison call it. I'm just trying to think of alliterations in mind. I'm not being able to come across anything right now. Nothing striking. So let's just say, let's look ahead. The alliteration we came up with for the graphic itself. So 2 solid games coming up. First, of course, is Australia versus Sri Lanka. And that's coming live from Sharjah. And that's a noon game starting at 3:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And then it'll be Bangladesh and England taking on once again coming live from Sharjah. And that's the evening game starting at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Boss, पहले फर्स्ट गेम की बात करते हैं. Australia, the defending champions, will finally be playing their first game of the World Cup and they're playing against Sri Lanka. A wounded Sri Lanka, if one may say so. A wounded Lankan Lions attack, if one may say so. Show me, how do you look at that to begin? Because Sharjah spin friendly hai. Sri Lankan spinners did well yesterday. They are up against a solid Australian side. What are you expecting?
I'm hoping Sri Lanka to bounce back from the defeat and come back with a positive spirit. Firstly, of course, the way they lost the game yesterday, it was hurtful after coming from that especially the Asia Cup win. So that's where I think they would want to make a comeback, but they are coming back in front of Australia, which is of course way too powerful at the moment, and it looks like a difficult task, but of course, with the spin attack that Sri Lanka has and the conditions favoring them, things they do have some. We will give something to them, but inside we know that it's a very tough task.
It's definitely not going to be easy for Sri Lanka there. But Neha, again, thoughts on the game? What are you looking at in terms of at least how this game could potentially be something that Sri Lanka can try and salvage some pride?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the head-to-head as well, Australia never lost to Sri Lanka in T20s, let alone, a World Cup as well. So I think we definitely have an interesting encounter on cards because Sri Lanka would, want to kind of reverse this trend. But more importantly, I want to see how the Sri Lankan spinners fare against the Aussie batters as well, right? Because the Aussie batters can potentially have some struggles against the spinners, and these are not conditions they're very familiar with. And I think a lot of people have been talking about how this invincibility, this aura that Australia has is kind of missing. So in case Sri Lanka ends up pulling off a win tomorrow, I think it would just mean like an entire change in all the equations and balances of this World Cup. Very unlikely that would happen. We know Australia is too dominant a side to ensure something like that happens. But nonetheless, I'm just interested to see some of these player battles, how the spinners go against the Aussie batters, and even like, will the toss play that much of an important role in dictating the course of the match? I'd still say Australia are favourites to win, but if Sri Lanka can pull off, something magical, I think we're all here to talk about it.
Yeah, and since you mentioned toss, once again, we saw what happened in Sharjah yesterday. Both times there was the side batting first that won the game. So clearly, sides defending will find it a lot more easier because the surface tends to slow down. It tends to get a bit tired. You can expect something similar tomorrow as well. And given that, how do you think, Sri Lanka would be looking at this? Do you think they'll probably stock up on some of the spin options, or they will probably go unchanged because that was, one of the strongest 11s in general?
Yeah, I think Sri Lanka would, want to go with a very spin-heavy attack because that is clearly one of their strengths. I think even in our previews, we did talk about how they have a very aging, bowling department. Their pacers are, kind of on the wrong side of their 30s. So might as well play to your strengths, right? They have some stellar spinners as well who can kind of do the job for you. Chamari Atupattu herself, kind of delivered in that match. So I think Sri Lanka would, still fancy their chances in trying to restrict Australia if Australia is batting first in that sense. But I think they would definitely want to play to their strengths, and we could, possibly see that play out tomorrow.
So, like Nikhil Bhai says, do you think Shashini will get a chance? देखते हैं भाई क्या होता है. But show me again, speaking of Australia themselves, they have a couple of injury concerns. In fact, a few of them did not even play the Australia-New Zealand series. A few of them weren't a part of the warm-ups as well. What are some of the names you're looking forward to, given it's going to be sprint-friendly and not easy to attack, which Australia love to do? क्या लगता है? What do you think will Australia be putting out tomorrow?
I'm not really sure about the specific names, but looking at the way the tournament has been progressing and how the captains have been contributing to the wins, be it Fatima yesterday, be it Sophie Devine today, be it Laura today. So I'm really hoping that Healy comes out really well. And either Healy or Chamari, I mean, we know what match winners both of them are. So I'm really hoping to see something good come out of either of the captains and take this pattern forward. I was hoping the same from Harman today, but yeah, that's another conversation.
Fair enough. But I, for one, I'm rooting for Chamari there. I'm hoping that, she will able to come up with the goods, with the bad especially, because of all people, I'm pretty sure Chamari herself will be disappointed with the way she got out. Not something, that she would be proud of. And given that this could potentially be her last T20 World Cup, she would want to ensure that she leaves with a bang once again. So it is important for her. And let's hope that she's able to do it against the best possible side. Yeah, it doesn't get better. The occasion doesn't get better. It's the best women's side, and then it's you in the World Cup fixture. Fingers crossed something like that happens, because boss, we all will be eating loads and loads of kottu parota should Sri Lanka beat Australia tomorrow. That's all I'll have to say. And that's all we have from the first game. There is another game happening. Another side will be playing their first game. In fact, I'm guessing that's the last of the 10 sides to play the first fixture, their first fixture. And it is, of course, England. England will be taking on Bangladesh, who themselves will be upbeat after that solid victory against Scotland in the first game. This time around, in some sense, they will be playing Scotland's neighbours, so they will be hoping that और कुछ नहीं तो मतलब कुछ अच्छा ही कर पाएं. But again, let's start with that. Bangladesh did very well against Scotland. Sure, Scotland not the strongest of opponents and stuff like that, but that game also happened in Sharjah, so they clearly have a much better understanding of the surface, of the conditions that they can expect. On the other hand, this is going to be England's first game, so they will be expected to adjust quickly, get an understanding of the conditions quickly. Soumi, do you think that will be something Bangladesh will want to maximize on that advantage, especially?
Definitely they would want to, but again, like looking into England's powerhouse of spin that they have, I think England will have a lot of advantage going into this game because no, I mean, though it's their first game, but they definitely have the power to take it up in this game. So I look forward to England really performing well, and Bangladesh did get that win under their belt, so they will have a lot of confidence coming into this. But I still put England advantage for this one.
Fair enough. And Neha, again, England has been one of the better batting units this year in terms of run rate, in terms of average. They've just been solid through and through. And we all spoke about it even during the team preview about how that top six is probably the best top six in the tournament. Everyone's in form. Everyone's hitting the ball really well. Everyone's getting those runs importantly once again. So, kya lagta hai, that high-flying top order against these Bangla spinners, slow pacers, you can't even call them medium pacers, they are 89, 90 pe dalta, and that's the kind of pace you want in Sharjah. So it's, if anything, working in Bangladesh's favor. So do you think, or rather, how do you think will this game pan out?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely in for an exciting encounter. Again, we're coming in here with the notion that, Bangladesh hasn't defeated England so far in women's T20. So if they do this, again, it will be incredibly special. But I think just talking a little more about England's bowling department as well, the spinners, right? You have Sophie Eccleston, you have Charlie Dean and Sarah Glenn, who are some of your finest spinners at the moment. You have Lindsay Smith as well coming in. So I think I would be more interested to see how this England spinners go against the Bangladeshi batters, because they did have their fair share of struggles in the first match, right? So it again depends on who wins the toss, who is batting first. But again, I think Bangladesh, would want to come up with a better batting performance, because I mean this is a side like England, right, who can chase down those big totals. They're coming in with some great form. They have a lot of depth in their batting department. I think Alice Capsey is someone who I would definitely be watching out for, because she has been in some good form. And once she gets into the groove, she's almost, unstoppable. We've seen enough of her in, international cricket, in the WPL, even in the 100, right? So excited to see how she goes from here. And England has had so many heartbreaks, in the T20 World Cup. Just look at the past few editions. Every time they come to the semi-finals, they lose. Or just have very heartbreaking losses. See, so I think they would look to overturn that sort of a trend. They're coming in with such a strong squad. And I think even Heather Knight in one of the presses, spoke about how they're coming in with this aggressive mindset in the batting. It's not about just trying to attack like just for the sake of it, but actually go in with some intent to get those big totals and chase down totals with some sort of a mindset. Yeah, even Amy Jones spoke about that. So I think we are seeing a refreshed England side who have had some great performances, coming into this World Cup. It's just about going that extra mile, and I think all of us have called them, favorites to make it to the semi-finals. And I think getting off to a great start with this win will be imperative for them.
I mean, that top order once again, yeah, there's Danny, Maya, then of course you've got the likes of Alice Capsey, Heather Knight, Nat Silverbrand, and Amy Jones. Again, a solid top six, and something that they would be proud of and something they would want to maximize, especially against this Bangla side. So Tanveer, our resident Bangla fan, of course, going on to say, yeah, Bangladesh will be all out under 90 or 100 if they bat or bowl first. I don't know if he's, sort of deploying the age-old tactic of reverse jinxing exactly. बॉस आई एग्री विद इन दैट सेंस कि यार मतलब तुम अगर एक्सपेक्टेशंस रखोगे ही नहीं ना तो डिसअपॉइंट नहीं होगे. हम ही है ना वो गधे लोग, आज एक्सपेक्टेशंस लेके आए थे मैच देखने तो डिसअपॉइंट हुए. उससे अच्छा है तो एक्सपेक्टेशंस ही मत रखो, which is fair enough. Fair enough for Tanveer. Of course, we still have expectations from Bangladesh given the way they played in the first game. But again, show me in terms of the conditions itself. So once again, do you see teams preferring to bat first, just like yesterday, because Bangladesh also won the game batting first, Pakistan won the game batting first. Do you expect something similar happen to tomorrow's games as well? Do you see Australia and England as well in the second game wanting to bat first should they win the toss?
I think they would want to do that, and especially looking into the heat that is also there, they would want to probably go in and bat first. And secondly, the fact is that they would probably want to put in some runs and then kind of chase it down quickly. I think those will be the two reasons why they would want to kind of take up batting.
Interesting. So Neha, again, final thoughts. I wouldn't ask you to predict the winner because, of course, fairly obvious in the sense you would want to say Australia and England are, favorites at least entering the game. But sticking to the second game itself, England-Bangladesh, what are some things, some positives that you're looking forward to, or some takeaways that you're looking forward to from Bangladesh, some boxes that they would want to tick at the very least, if not win the game?
Yeah, I think Bangladesh would be heading into this match with the mindset that if not win, at least let's kind of get those boxes ticked. So first things first, I think a better batting effort. We did briefly touch upon how they probably would have wanted Nigar Sultana to bat up a notch higher, or even the openers kind of giving you that sort of an aggressive start, because the moment you just take your time to settle in, you go into a shell, it just makes things very difficult. You're playing against a very competitive England side. So in that sense, I think they would want to have a fine power play which sets the tone for the rest of their match. This is again in the hypothetical situation of them batting first, which is a choice that they're likely to go for, because it is Sharjah. You want to kind of tire out the opposition by having them feed for like a good 20 overs. So in that sense, I think they would want to have a strong batting effort. But in the case of them bowling first as well, I think the spinners, right, they are going to play a massive role, because with a lot of these non-subcontinent teams, they do have their fair share of struggles against spinners, right? So I think Bangladesh would want to kind of extract and just make the most of that. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the spinners kind of come into play. And I hope we don't get to see a lot of drop catches, because that was such a big talking point from yesterday of Bangladesh just dropping absolute dollies, and it was getting really difficult to watch. But again, we have to take into account how the conditions were challenging and everything. So in that sense, I think these three basic departments and just being able to execute that to perfection should at least lead to a competitive match, if not a win. And Bangladesh would be going in with some confidence, having won their first T20 T20 World Cup match after like a good 10 years. So at least there's some amount of confidence. It's just about getting a few things right. If not a win, at least a competitive match on cards is what I am, manifesting.
Same question to you, Soumi. Again, last thoughts. What are you expecting from the game, and what do you want Bangladesh to be able to do at the very least, if not win the game?
I think the same thing about how the Bangladeshi spin works against Australia, how they fare there, and if at all, by God's grace, if at all there is something that we can see there, then it will, especially considering Australia is such a strong team, and every team would want to get some kind of a strategy built up. Very strong strategy built up against Australia. I think if we see something from Bangladesh in terms of the spinning department, it would create a template for many of the teams and especially India to take it up against Bangladesh. Sorry, take it up against Australia. So I think that will be my biggest takeaway if we can find a way, a template to kind of beat Australia.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And again, because of the fact that they've not necessarily had a fixed template, and that could probably be a big reason why they've not been able to win. And so, yeah, it'll be something interesting to see how they fare up, given that it's also a night game. Yesterday, it was, of course, a noon game against Scotland. This time around, it's going to be an evening game. But you can expect no changes as such. Spinners to wahi unke paas. There's Fahima, there's Nahida, there's Rabia Khan as well, who did very well yesterday. So hopefully we will be in for two enthralling matches at the very least once again. Even if the winners seem to be fairly obvious, let's hope कि कम से कम 40 ओवर के तो दोनों मैचेस चले और आज के दूसरे मैच जैसा तो बिल्कुल ही ना हो. Please, let's hope. And that's that from today's review. Thank you so much for joining in once again, guys. We spoke about, of course, first the India-New Zealand fixture and then West Indies versus South Africa. And for those of you joining in right now, we've also previewed the two games coming up tomorrow, which is Australia versus Sri Lanka, and then, of course, the night game, which is Bangladesh versus England. Tomorrow night, we will be back once again talking about tomorrow's two games and, importantly, day after tomorrow's two games, which includes India versus Pakistan. So lots to talk about tomorrow as well. So make sure you tune in at 11 p.m. sharp. And let's hope we will be talking about at least one upset, if not two, tomorrow night. Until then, a goodbye from all of us. Thanks once again. Have a great weekend.